Hey friends, Editing Chris here, just popping in to say thank you. In this video, as I'm editing this, I was mentioning how we were about 60 subscribers away from the 1,000 mark, and thanks to the incredible support of this amazing community, we did it. We hit that 1,000 mark and I am over the moon excited about this. I don't think that I can say that I've ever been part of a community that is as uplifting and supportive as the crochet community, and I am just so thrilled to be a part of that. All the creators that took the time to mention me in their videos and even time out of their day to go on their own platforms and create posts encouraging people to come and check out the channel. I'm just so incredibly grateful for everyone here, everyone who has subscribed, and everyone who watches. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another video. As you saw by the title and thumbnail, and I mentioned in last week's video, if you saw that, today we are going to talk all about my first year of sales on Etsy. But before we get into all of that, there's a couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to go through with you really quickly because a couple of folks have reached out about them. So the first one is Jack Skellington. Unfortunately, I never heard back. The link expired on January 1st, as I mentioned that it would. So he is still in my possession and will likely come with me to a market sometime in the fall. The second one up is memberships. So I mentioned, I think it was in my goal video, that I got a message from YouTube saying I was eligible. I went ahead and pulled the trigger and put all the information in. There's a review process that I started this morning, and I actually just got an email a few minutes ago saying that I'm approved. So I just need to do whatever those final steps are. So that may or may not be available if you want to check it out below. The third one is Crochet Grove and the Shelf Goose / Dragon mod. I still have not heard back from Crochet Grove in the message that I sent on Instagram. However, I know that a lot of people get a lot of different messages on Instagram. So I ended up making a post this morning of my mods and tagging Crochet Grove. So hopefully I will hear back from Crochet Grove and be able to get that out for you. If not, I'm not going to press or pursue the issue any further. I mentioned before that I was originally considering doing a complete Etsy overhaul, and I decided against that, and that is still the case. I am not going to get into doing new banners or any of that stuff. I just don't know that it's worth all of the effort at this time. But what I do want to talk about in today's video is 4 different things. So the first thing I want to do is give you a little overview of how I structured my Etsy store as far as like shipping charges and all that kind of stuff. Then I want to give you my thoughts overall as far as Etsy and having been on the platform for almost a year now. And then I want to get into all of the numbers. I'll tell you what all the sales were, all the fees, all that good stuff. And then last but not least, I'm going to go through what I'm going to be doing for 2026 as far as the Etsy store is concerned. And then of course we'll get to my makes. As always, timestamps are below in case you want to jump around. I started my Etsy store in April of 2025. I did do some research before jumping into Etsy, but it is the most popular and well-known kind of handmade place to go. So I knew I was going to at least give it a try. Before doing so, I watched a lot of different videos from YouTubers, both in the crochet community and just in the craft community in general, to just get kind of different perspectives and ideas on the way that they structured their stores. The one I followed most closely was Crochet by Jenna, and I'll link that video below. She went over everything she did when she first launched, and I did mirror a lot of what she had going on there. The main things I was trying to figure out is, was it worth it to do some advertising, and would I offer free shipping or charge the customer shipping on each item? The way I ended up doing it for the store was setting up where I did offer free shipping on everything that I put out there, and I did go in for advertising, and I set up my advertising to not spend more than $1 per day. If you're not familiar with how that works, as a brief quick overview, if anyone searches something and your item comes up to the top because you've paid for advertising, if they click it, you get charged that click. One other person that I took influence from was Morgan at LA Crochet. She mentioned in her video where she talked about her store utilizing every possible character in the name of the item so that when people are searching, they can find your items a little more easily. So anything that you can think of to describe almost what a person would be searching for to come across your item, putting that in the title and using those characters. And that's pretty much it. There's not a heck of a lot that you can control when you're listing an item on Etsy. Obviously the description and all of that stuff is within your control. But when it comes to things like fees, it's really a matter of, do you want to charge the person for shipping? Do you want the thing to auto renew? And do you want to spend money on advertising for it? All right, let's talk a little bit about Etsy and my thoughts overall. So I think that the biggest kind of elephant in the room with Etsy is the fees. You always hear fees, 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 fees. And yes, there are fees and they are higher than other platforms. But if you ask about buying something handmade online, the first thing that comes out of most people's mouths is Etsy. And to me, it's clear cut. Etsy is saying, if you want to use this platform, this is what you're going to pay. Choose to do it, choose not to do it. It's up to you, you know? So to me, it's like I was never blindsided with some kind of crazy fee or anything that I didn't know was coming. That would be different, you know? But to me, it's very, very out there. If you have the means to sell somewhere else and have less fees, then go for it. I know, as a matter of fact, if I would have put these items up on my website, if my website was launched, I wouldn't have got traffic. You know, Shopify and things like that, they don't drive the traffic to your item as well as Etsy does. My opinion, you could leave yours in the comments down below. I'm all up for a healthy discussion. But yeah, so when it comes to the fee piece, it doesn't bother me because I expect it. I know it's coming. Now, when it comes to some other things, I do take issue with Etsy. The biggest one being the AI and manufactured situation. Etsy is supposed to be the place where you go for handmade, and it absolutely drives me nuts when I'm searching for a pattern or I'm scrolling through and you see things that are so obviously AI generated. And to me, Etsy does not do enough to keep up with that, because I got to tell you, working with AI myself, they could have a process running where AI can identify the AI. It is not difficult. If you put two images into AI and ask it, which one is AI, which one is not AI, it knows. So to me, there is no excuse for them to say that they have no control over that or they're not monitoring that. It would not be a massive investment for them to implement something automated that just checks through listings and does something like that. But that is out of our control. But I definitely do take issue with that. And I do think eventually it's going to hurt them. Because I have seen so many reports of people reporting issues, buying bad patterns, you know, letting Etsy know. And yes, maybe they get their money back and all that stuff, but I think it's only a matter of time before they have to do something. And I'm hoping that's the case. Last but not least is kind of how Etsy treats vendors versus customers. So I have heard a lot of rumblings about if you have a dispute with a customer, you know, an example of that would be you put a PDF pattern up for sale, someone purchases that and then says, "Where's my item? I was expecting a physical item." Meanwhile, plastered all over the listing, the description, everything, it says PDF pattern only, not an item, you know, and Etsy has been known to just like refund the customer and charge back and stuff like that. I have not experienced that myself, thankfully. But I do think that it's really unfortunate if that's the case and Etsy is not even looking into the issue and just automatically siding with the customer. And then secondary to that, but kind of the same thing, is the whole idea of if you do not have perfect 5-star ratings, then Etsy's less likely to put your item out there for people to view. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that is what I've heard. And if that is the case, that's unfortunate because there are so many people out in this world that will not do a perfect 5-star rating for something because they just don't believe anything's perfect. And it would be unfortunate if you have at least, 4.5 or whatever it is stars to deprioritize you just because it's not a perfect rating. All of that being said, I am going to continue with Etsy this year. I do want to put items on my website as well, but I think that there's like two different audiences there. So I think that like anyone who's following me here or on Instagram and trusts kind of in purchasing from me directly can go to the website when I do launch it. And I will have lower prices there because the fees will be lower. But if they don't want to and you trust Etsy or you're just used to your pattern library being on Etsy or whatever it it may be, then I'll probably keep items there as well. It may be where I pick and choose. I haven't decided any of that yet. With that out of the way, let's get into my Etsy sales for 2025. Since April of 2025, I have had 31 sales. I want to say there were 2 sales in which more than one item was purchased. And out of those 31, 8 of them were digital. And one of them was actually Mr. Skane purchasing my pattern because I wasn't sure how that would work and I wanted to see what it was like. So we will or won't count that, but I did get the revenue. My total sales came out to $665.01. I paid a total of $8.20 in listing fees. I paid a total of $40.31 in transaction fees, $27.50 in processing fees. In shipping, I paid $139.84. And in marketing fees, I paid a whopping $155.25, which brought me to a total net of $293.91. Now, if you look at that total sales number in the 600s and the fact that I only took home 200 out of that, it's a big chunk that went away. And that leads me to the changes that I'm making for 2026. As you saw, the 2 biggest chunks that came out of that were the shipping and the marketing fees. So let's talk about shipping really quickly. Like I said before, put free shipping on everything. And I had a slight misunderstanding as to how that got tallied and calculated. What I did was I went online not knowing any better, and I put in some calculations for, like, I'm in Florida, California would be the furthest place away that I would ship something, and I got a zip code out there, and it wasn't 90210. And I did some calculations for different sizes and weights of packages. And I thought that I was being really thorough and coming up with these numbers and added that into the pricing. I mentioned in some of my older pricing videos that I needed to change my Etsy pricing because it wasn't enough. And that is the biggest reason why things that I thought were going to cost $6 or $8 to ship ended up costing $14 to ship and things like that. Part of the reason that I got things messed up in there is their UI for picking and choosing what shipping you're offering on the items. You can kind of create a shipping profile, which is like you're picking, is it express or is it, ground or whatever? Is it USPS? And you can outline everything, but it changes kind of automatically when you put in package sizes or weights and things like that. And I didn't catch how that was working. And then there were other times where it was like, it would tell me, I would put in their ground and it would tell me customer requested priority. And it was only $1 more or $2 more. And I was like, oh my God, they requested it. Did I have them requesting it? I was really confused by that. So I would go ahead and do it at first. I realized later that there's not like really a request. What I ended up doing was creating a listing and then putting it out there, logging in under a different account and seeing if I was presented with something, if I was purchasing. And there's not really a request that I could see because I didn't offer options of shipping. There was just the one, the free shipping. So a big chunk of where I spent more money than I expected to was in those shipping fees. I went and looked through a ton of different makers on Etsy and whether or not they offer free shipping. And for the most part, a lot of people don't. You go in, you see the item, how much the item costs, you scroll down and you see how much it costs to ship to you. So for 2026, I have decided I am not going to be offering free shipping. Obviously, I took my shipping charges out of my calculations for my Etsy pricing so that they're adjusted so that everything is fair to the customer and we are all set. And then the largest chunk that came out, as we mentioned, was marketing. So Etsy advertising / marketing is interesting. You can put a limit as to what they will charge you up to like $1 per day. I definitely think it was worth it. It got my stuff out there. I could tell that. I would have people go on other accounts and search and see if my item came up. Now, you get charged when they click it. So if you're going to do something like that, don't click it. Even if it's you'll get charged. I learned that. But, I have decided that for 2026, I am not going to be doing the marketing. So I have turned that off on all of my listings. It's something that I don't necessarily know is worth it. Will my stuff come up to the top if someone searches? I don't know. And I'm okay with that. For the most part, my bread and butter, so to speak, has been the in-person markets, and that's where my focus is going to be this year. It might come to a point where I come out with those products or do any other things and I decide to go ahead and do it. And I may do it here and there for an item that I really want to push, but for the most part, it's going to be off for my store for the year. I do realize that I don't give Etsy enough of my focus, and I'm okay with that. Like I mentioned, this year my focus is going to be on the in-person markets, but like I'll make things and they could have been up on Etsy for 20 cents, you know, to just list it, and I don't do that. So I am going to be working on an inventory process where I'm going to kind of create a little checklist for myself and see if an item is something that I do want to put up on Etsy and take those steps to go ahead and get it listed. Because to me, the 20 cents is worth putting it out there if it's something that I do want to consider selling even before a market. All right, let's get into this week's makes. For this week, I wanted to continue market prepping, but I also had some new patterns that I hadn't gotten a chance to try yet. So I decided to go best of both worlds and try a new pattern that I also thought could be a market make. So I made the Swirly Snake by Zuzulia. I've seen this pattern in a couple different places. I was a little hesitant because I made one other snake before and I did not like it. I did not like just going in a loop and going and going. I liked the head shape, but the actual body of the snake, it was so redundant and kind of boring. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. But I think it was on Granny by Nature channel that they kind of described that it was made differently than other snakes. So I decided to go ahead and jump in. So I made 4 of the Zuzulia snakes. Let me show you each of these. This is Bernat Mystical, and then just a Bernat scrap that I had for the belly color. And then I used some snake-shaped, reptile-shaped eyes that I got off of Amazon. These are not hand-painted. This is just using the glitter back that it came with. So I have another in Mystical that is the Purple Mystical with kind of their pinkish purple glitter eyes. Again, the bellies were just little scraps that I had left over. And then I did these. I don't remember what the name of these colorways are, and I do not have the label any longer, but I thought this one made a cool snake. And I like things of different colors, so I used a scrap to make this one. It's blue and a gray belly. So yeah, I've got 4 of these guys made, and that was kind of my limit, and then I got bored. And then I thought about any other kind of reptile or amphibian that I had because I was also organizing my patterns into buckets because I have so many that I think it's a good idea to start bucketing them. And then I spotted the Ted the Thick Toad pattern in my stash. And this is a free Instagram pattern by Crochet and Canadian Rue, I believe. And I've had these before in my inventory and they sell well. So I went ahead and made these also with some of the same colors that I made the snakes. And they've got their little tush. So I've got 3 of these guys that I made. All of this stuff made in Bernat was with a 6.5mm hook. So all in all, not bad. I probably could have made more, but I started to work on some of my other goals and tasks that I had in my list. So this is what I got done for this week, which I'm pretty happy with. I hope that the Etsy information was helpful to you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you don't want to leave it in a comment, message me over on Instagram or send me an email. I'm happy to help however I can. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible, just because I think it's helpful to anyone else out there who is considering doing this. I have had some comments where folks are saying that they are going to possibly start a YouTube channel or an Etsy shop and things like that. So I want to share as much as I can to help anyone out there that it might help. As I'm recording this video, we are, I want to say, about 60 subscribers away from 1,000. So I cannot thank you enough. If you have not already subscribed, please consider doing so. It would mean the world to me. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.